Before we start, tell me where you're listening from in the comments. Maybe you're someone who thinks the American political system is fundamentally broken, with two parties that no longer represent most people's views. Maybe you've been watching the dramatic fallout between Elon Musk and Donald Trump and wondering what it means for the future of American politics. Maybe you're curious about whether the world's richest man can actually create a viable alternative to the Republican and Democratic parties. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand why Elon Musk's decision to form a new political party could be the most significant political development of our lifetime, and why this isn't just about one man's political ambitions, but about the potential transformation of how American democracy actually works. I want to tell you about a moment that changed everything. On July 5th, 2025, after months of escalating tensions with President Trump over government spending, Elon Musk announced the formation of the America Party on his social media platform X. This wasn't just another political statement or threat. This was the world's richest man who had spent over $277 million to get Trump elected, formally breaking with the Republican establishment and declaring war on what he called the one-party system that has dominated American politics. Most people saw this as just another billionaire tantrum, another example of Musk's impulsive decision-making. But I'm going to tell you why this represents something much more significant: the potential birth of the first truly viable third party in American politics in over 160 years. To understand why this matters, you need to understand how we got here. Elon Musk wasn't always a Republican. In fact, for most of his adult life, he voted Democrat. He supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and consistently advocated for policies that aligned with traditional Democratic values: environmental protection, renewable energy, and science-based decision-making. But something changed during the 2022 midterm elections. Musk began to feel that the Democratic Party had moved too far left on social issues while abandoning their commitment to free speech and open debate. At the same time, he saw the Republican Party as the only viable opposition to what he perceived as increasing authoritarianism from the left. His purchase of Twitter in 2022 for $44 billion was fundamentally a political act, motivated by his belief that free speech was under threat from both government pressure and corporate censorship. When he transformed Twitter into X and implemented his vision of a free speech absolutist platform, he was making a statement about the kind of society he wanted to help create. This led him naturally toward Trump in 2024, not because he agreed with Trump on everything, but because he saw Trump as the candidate most likely to protect the principles of free speech, reduce government regulation, and pursue policies that would benefit American innovation and technological advancement. Musk's support for Trump was unprecedented in its scale and intensity. He spent $277 million of his own money, making him the largest individual political donor in American history outside of candidates funding their own campaigns. He appeared at rallies, conducted interviews, and used his massive social media following to amplify Trump's message. When Trump won, Musk was rewarded with a position leading the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. This wasn't just a ceremonial role. Musk was given broad authority to identify government waste, eliminate unnecessary regulations, and streamline federal operations. For someone who had built his career on maximizing efficiency and eliminating bureaucratic obstacles, this seemed like the perfect opportunity to apply his business philosophy to government. But the honeymoon didn't last long. The first major crack in their relationship appeared in April 2025, when Musk got into a very public dispute with Peter Navarro, one of Trump's key economic advisors, over tariff policy. Musk called Navarro truly a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks for dismissing Tesla as merely a car assembler, rather than a true manufacturer. This wasn't just a personality clash. It revealed fundamental disagreements about economic policy. Musk, as someone who had built global supply chains and understood the complexities of international trade, saw Trump's tariff policies as potentially damaging to American competitiveness. He understood that protectionist policies might provide short-term political benefits, but would ultimately harm the innovation and efficiency that drive long-term economic growth. The relationship deteriorated further when Trump proposed his signature domestic policy legislation, which he called the One Big, Beautiful Bill. This massive spending package, which included tax cuts, infrastructure spending, and various social programs, was projected to add over $3.4 trillion to the federal deficit over a decade. For Musk, this represented everything wrong with American politics. Here was a supposedly conservative Republican president proposing spending increases that would saddle future generations with unprecedented debt, all in the name of short-term political popularity. Musk didn't just disagree privately. He used his platform X to wage a public campaign against the bill, calling it insane spending that would lead to debt slavery for Americans. He argued that the bill represented the fundamental problem with American politics. Both parties were willing to bankrupt the country to maintain power, with no regard for long-term consequences. Trump's response was swift and personal. He accused Musk of being upset about provisions in the bill that would eliminate electric vehicle tax credits, suggesting that Musk's opposition was motivated by self-interest rather than principle. He threatened that Musk would face serious consequences if he supported Democratic candidates, and even suggested that the government might reconsider its contracts with Musk's companies. But Musk had already made a public commitment. If the bill passed, he would form a new political party. And when Trump signed the legislation into law on July 5, 2025, Musk followed through on his threat. The announcement of the America Party wasn't just a social media post. It was accompanied by a detailed political strategy. Musk explained that rather than trying to compete nationally immediately, the party would focus on 2 to 3 Senate seats and 8 to 10 House districts where they could have maximum impact. The goal wasn't to win a majority, but to become the deciding vote on key legislation. This strategic approach reveals something important about Musk's political thinking. He understands that American politics is fundamentally about leverage and influence, not just winning elections. By controlling even a small number of seats in Congress, a disciplined third party could force both Republicans and Democrats to negotiate for their support on every major piece of legislation. If this conversation is helping you understand the significance of what's happening in American politics right now, subscribe to make sure you don't miss future discussions about the forces that are reshaping our political landscape. But Musk's political ambitions go beyond just creating leverage in Congress. He's articulated a vision for what he calls representing the 80% in the middle. Americans who don't feel represented by either the progressive wing of the Democratic Party or the populist wing of the Republican Party. This 80% includes people who support fiscal responsibility, but also believe in investing in infrastructure and education. People who support free markets, but also want reasonable environmental protections. People who support individual liberty, but also understand that some collective action is necessary to address major challenges. In polling, this moderate center consistently represents the largest group of American voters, but they're systematically underrepresented in American politics because of how our primary system works. In both parties, the most ideologically committed voters have disproportionate influence in primary elections, pushing candidates toward the extremes and leaving moderate voters with unsatisfying choices in general elections. Musk's America Party is explicitly designed to capture this underserved political center. The party's initial platform focuses on fiscal conservatism, government efficiency, technological innovation, and what Musk calls rational policymaking based on data rather than ideology. But creating a successful third party in America faces enormous structural obstacles. The American political system is fundamentally designed to maintain two-party dominance. Ballot access laws vary by state and range from difficult to nearly impossible for new parties. Campaign finance laws favor established parties with existing donor networks. Media coverage tends to focus on the horse race between the two major parties, marginalizing third-party candidates. Perhaps most importantly, American voters have been conditioned to see third-party votes as wasted votes that only serve to help elect the candidate they like least. This creates what political scientists call the spoiler effect, where rational voters abandon their preferred third-party candidate to vote strategically for the lesser evil from one of the major parties. But Musk has several advantages that previous third-party efforts have lacked. First, he has unprecedented financial resources. At over $350 billion in net worth, he could personally fund a national political operation at a scale that dwarfs anything previously attempted in American politics. Second, he controls one of the world's most influential social media platforms in X. This gives him the ability to reach millions of voters directly, without depending on traditional media coverage or expensive advertising campaigns. Third, he has demonstrated an ability to build and scale complex organizations quickly. SpaceX went from startup to the world's leading space company in less than 2 decades. Tesla transformed from a niche electric car company to the world's most valuable automaker. The same organizational and strategic capabilities that built these companies could be applied to building a political movement. Fourth, the current political moment may be uniquely favorable for a third-party challenge. Polling consistently shows that majorities of Americans want alternatives to the current two-party system. Trust in government institutions is at historic lows. Traditional media has lost much of its gatekeeping power. Social media allows new political movements to organize and mobilize support more quickly than ever before. But perhaps most importantly, Musk represents something that neither traditional party can offer: a vision of American politics focused on competence rather than ideology, on solving problems rather than winning political points, on long-term thinking rather than short-term electoral advantage. When Musk talks about making government more efficient, he's not talking about abstract policy proposals. He's talking about applying the same rigorous, data-driven approach that he's used to revolutionize the automotive and space industries. When he talks about fiscal responsibility, he's speaking as someone who has built companies worth hundreds of billions of dollars and understands the real-world consequences of financial mismanagement. This practical, results-oriented approach could appeal to voters who are tired of politicians who excel at campaigning but fail at governing, who make promises they can't keep, and propose policies that sound good but don't work in practice. The early response to Musk's America Party announcement has been mixed but significant. His poll on X, asking whether Americans wanted a new political party, received overwhelming support, with about 80% of respondents voting yes. But polling also shows that Musk's personal favorability ratings have declined since his time in the Trump administration, raising questions about whether he can be an effective face for a new political movement. Trump's response has been particularly telling. Rather than dismissing Musk's effort as insignificant, Trump has launched increasingly personal attacks, calling Musk off the rails and predicting that a third party would create complete and total disruption and chaos. This suggests that Trump and his advisors see Musk's party as a genuine threat to Republican electoral prospects. Democratic leaders have been more circumspect, perhaps hoping that the America Party will primarily draw votes away from Republicans. But Musk's focus on fiscal responsibility and government efficiency could also appeal to moderate Democrats who are uncomfortable with their party's embrace of large-scale government spending programs. The potential impact on the 2026 midterm elections could be significant. Musk has already indicated that he plans to target specific races where the America Party could be decisive. If he can win even a handful of Senate seats and House districts, it would fundamentally alter the dynamics of American politics. In a closely divided Congress, a small bloc of America Party representatives could hold the balance of power on every major vote. This would force both Republicans and Democrats to moderate their positions and seek compromise, potentially breaking the gridlock that has characterized American politics for the past decade. But the real test of Musk's political future won't come in 2026 or even 2028. It will come in his ability to build a sustainable political organization that can survive beyond his personal involvement and continue to represent the interests of moderate Americans who feel unrepresented by the current two-party system. This means developing a pipeline of credible candidates who share the party's vision and can articulate its message effectively. It means building state and local organizations that can compete in elections at every level of government. It means creating a policy agenda that goes beyond criticism of the existing system to offer specific, practical solutions to America's challenges. Most importantly, it means proving that competent, results-oriented governance is possible in American politics. If Musk's America Party can demonstrate that it's possible to run government more like a successful business, with clear objectives, measurable outcomes, and accountability for results, it could inspire a fundamental shift in how Americans think about political leadership. The stakes couldn't be higher. American democracy faces serious challenges from political polarization, institutional dysfunction, and declining public trust. Traditional approaches to reform have failed to address these fundamental problems. Musk's America Party represents perhaps the most serious attempt in generations to offer a genuine alternative to the status quo. Whether this effort succeeds or fails will depend on Musk's ability to translate his success in business into success in politics, to build bridges between different constituencies, and to convince Americans that competent governance is possible if we're willing to think beyond traditional party lines. The next few years will determine whether Elon Musk's political future involves leading a transformative new political movement, or whether the America Party becomes just another footnote in the long history of failed third-party efforts in American politics. But one thing is already clear. By challenging the fundamental assumptions of American politics and offering voters a real alternative to the existing two-party system, Musk has already changed the conversation about what's possible in American democracy. Share this analysis with someone who's interested in the future of American politics and might not realize how significant this moment could be for the direction of our country. And remember, the most important political developments often begin with individuals who are willing to challenge conventional wisdom and offer alternatives that initially seem impossible but gradually become inevitable. What role will you play in shaping the future of American politics?